This is the last door. We think that Moktop and his guards may have already arrived, so stay sharp. Watch your angles, we don't want the prisoners caught in the crossfire. Captain Gupta ordered as the group crouched behind the overhead door. Nuria clenched her grasping hoofs in anticipation. Finally, they could rescue her crew and be done with Moktop's sick charade. She crouched on her forelegs to get a better view of the storage room where her bridge crew were held as the door raised. Moktop stood over the body of her tactical officer, her flechette pistol in his hand. He turned and raised the pistol to the head of her communications officer. Wenthin closed his eyes as Moktop pointed the pistol at him. I'm sorry, Admiral Nuria, we failed you. No. Wenthin's eyes snapped open. He would know the sound of his admiral's voice anywhere. Nuria was here. Forgetting the flechette pistol centimeters from his face for a moment, he searched for the sound of the voice. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. As Admiral charged toward them on all 6 hooves, head lowered. Behind her, what looked to be humans and Dreeden in armor ran in her wake. Moktop's guards drew their weapons and Nuria staggered as a particle beam shot gouged out a piece of chitin on her side. But she kept coming. Behind her, Dreeden and humans returned fire, cutting Moktop's guards down in seconds. Moktop moved his pistol from Wenthin's head to point at Nuria, but Wenthin heaved himself at Moktop, falling into Moktop's grasping hoof that held the weapon, and Moktop's shot went wide. Nuria closed the distance at a full gallop, her carapace almost seeming to sparkle as she charged. With a crash of bodies and a crunch of chitin, Nuria barreled into Moktop, sending him toppling over backwards, Nuria's pistol thrown from his hands with the impact. Nuria advanced on him again, but Moktop scrambled for the door, running desperately into the corridor beyond. Nuria tried to follow, but collapsed, bleeding heavily from her side. Nesh glanced worriedly over at Nuria as a Marine and a Dreeden medic tended to her wound. The particle beam shot had torn away a slab of Nuria's carapace, leaving bloody gouges in her side. I'll live, the Bonthan said dismissively. Officer Wenthin, report. Yes, Admiral Nuria. Another Bonthan stumbled over, rubbing at his hooves where the restraints had confined them. Tactical Officer Ventak is dead, as is Second Navigation Officer Celia. The rest of us are alive, though some are hurt. Wenthin continued. We knew something was wrong when it was Moktop that arrested you. But we didn't know that he had turned traitor until we were arrested by his personal guards immediately after we had left the ship and brought here. Moktop needed us to validate his fabrication of the Flashing Hooves battle report. If it was going to be believable, it would need to have the Flashing Hooves' own digital signature on it. The battle recorder system is meant to be a black box, free of tampering. Wenthin explained. To fake the recording, Moktop needed to delete the original recording, insert a new recording into the ship's memory, and then have it authenticated with a password from one of the bridge crew. He took us back to the bridge of the Flashing Hooves to access the bridge systems. We refused at first, but then he killed Selah and told us that he would keep killing us until one of us made the authentication. Wenthin hung his head in shame. It was me, Admiral Nuria. I couldn't watch them be killed. Moktop would have found another way, I think, Nuria said. I'm glad that you and the rest of the crew are alive. So, the original recording is gone. Ambassador Wood sighed. Even with the testimony of the crew, it's going to be tough to prove that Moktop's version of the battle recording is fake. It's a start though. Apologies, Ambassador. Wenthin nodded toward Woods. There is more. When we heard that Admiral Nuria had been arrested, I became suspicious of his motives, and I made a copy of the original battle record. The files are still on the Flashing Hooves, hidden in the code for the secondary comm antennas. We need to get to my ship. Nuria heaved herself to her hooves, and Wenthin quickly moved to her injured side to support her. That may be easier said than done, Nuria, Nesh said. I just received word from my tactical team that the Flashing Hooves left dock 15 minutes ago on its way out system. Also, they say that the Bonthan embassy is coordinating with Assemblage Security. We have over 300 security personnel on their way to our position. Captain. Ambassador Baden turned to Gupta. Gupta shook his head. We might be able to fight through those numbers, sir, but only if we changed our rules of engagement. If we made it to the transit tubes, we'd be leaving a lot of bodies behind. Nurya was surprised. I know your Marines have been holding back, but you couldn't possibly take on. Nurya stopped herself. I have underestimated them at every turn. At some point, I'm going to have to start believing them. Her train of thought was interrupted by Baden. Even so, Captain, if we hope to clear Nurya's name and bring Maktab down, we can't kill station security personnel. We're going to have to surrender and hope that testimony from Winton and rest of the bridge crew will be enough. Baden sighed. It's the only way. That may not be possible, Nesh said grimly. My team says that Maktab has issued orders to shoot on sight. No quarter for traitors, were his words. The group was silent for a moment. Just then, there was a burst of static on their comm channel, and another voice broke in. This is Specialist Teal'c. My apologies for the intrusion, Ambassador. I hacked your comm channel so I could keep Lieutenant Rield appraised of your situation. If I may, I think I have a way to extract the rescue party. We're listening, Specialist. The route from your current position to the Bonthan Embassy's secondary space dock is relatively clear if you head there now. Well done, Teal'c, Nesh said. Baden, what do you think? It's our best bet. Captain Gupta, are your Marines ready? Wait. Nurya held up a hoof, confused. What good is it going to do to head deeper into the embassy complex? I have a tactical team currently EVA outside of the courier ship that Maktab returned to the assemblage on. We, Nesh replied, with a grin that reminded Nurya a little too much of Baden, are going to steal a spaceship. A few months ago. Giant sloths, really? Nesh frowned at the picture Baden had brought up on the holo tablet. The Kurthans look nothing like that. The head is all wrong, and the leg joints are backwards, and… Close enough, Nesh. Baden took another healthy swallow of his pillac. If I can compare an alien species to something I'm familiar with, they become less foreign, less alien. If I just focus on the differences, I have hard time paying attention, instead of listening to a speech. Instead, I'm wondering how they eat, how they reproduce. Nesh shuddered. You do not want to know how the Urits reproduce. Their entire organ sac bursts open and… Like I said, it's distracting, Nesh. So, I come up with an analog from Earth for each species that helps me think of them as something familiar. And the council chambers become a much less alien place. Okay, now you've piqued my curiosity, Baden. What do you think the Archon look like? They're kind of like if a daddy long legs had sex with a turtle. Nesh pulled up the respective creatures displayed on the holo tablet. I can kind of see it. Nesh peered more intently at the 3D representation of the turtle. Have I mentioned to you lately how hideous Earth fauna is, Baden? Because it is. Nesh's curiosity got the better of him. Bonthans. Baden took another sip of his pillac. Like a cross between a very angry bison and a giant cockroach. And what about Dreden? Honestly, Nesh, humans and Dreden have known each other long enough that I think I speak for most humans when I say that Dreden just look like Dreden to us. Baden paused, taking another drink. However, right after our double first contact with the Verd and Dreden, there were a lot of descriptive analogies in the press as to what Dreden looked like. Bug-eyed little Cthulhus was my favorite description from the archives, I think. What the hell is a Cthulhu, Baden? Baden grinned. Cthulhu is a fictional elder god that will wake from his eons-long slumber and destroy humanity. Baden stopped as he noticed Nesh's horrified expression. Oh, don't worry, humans naturally think that anything that is smaller than usual is cute. So people thought that the Dreden were adorable. Nesh had pulled up Cthulhu on his holo tablet. Let me get this straight. Humans thought the Dreden were cute because they thought we resembled miniature versions of a symbol of existential horror. Baden shrugged apologetically. Pretty much. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.